Hey everyone, welcome. I'm so excited because today we're here with Dr. Ynge. We're so excited to be talking about, could your child's learning be accentuated with better health, especially with an allergy that you know or even you don't know might even exist? Because we all have, and when I say allergy, I'm going to let Dr. Ynge talk about the definition of that because I know she has a real definition of that, but it's more than just what you think about seasonal allergy kind of things, right? So I want her to talk about this today because health affects so much of our lives. And when we get in this frustration mode of all of our learning and sitting down with our kids and trying to do our best for our kids, and our kids trying to do their best for us, and they feel like they can't for whatever reason, be it learning disability or, just an actual something they don't even know or you don't even know is getting in the way, it can really cause a lot of frustration and lower love of learning overall. And that's really a place that nobody wants to be. So I am super excited to be here. Thank you, Dr. Ynge, for joining us today. She is absolutely an expert on natural health in terms of thinking about, first, just what's behind everything. And I love that because that's really the idea of functional medicine, natural health is the root cause. And that's so important. So I love that Dr. Ynge talks about that and really talks about how to solve it completely in a way that's not traumatic or surgical or anything like that. It's really about just getting to the root cause and healing things. And Dr. Ynge is so wonderful. She has such a great energy, and she really is a tell it like it is kind of person, which I love because we don't want to beat around the bush about it. So Dr. Ynge, can you just share with us a little bit about just how you got in this industry and why you're so excited about this and how it's going to help parents?
Well, I have a long education behind me, and the last one was acupuncture, which I graduated 30 years ago. And in the beginning, because I still think that acupuncture is one of the greatest treating modalities there is around here. But a couple of people, they did not get the same results as we were looking for. They would feel great when they left, and then they came back with the same complaint again. And I started on a quest to find out what is the link between treatments and not healing. And so I found, after a lot of learning and a lot of money, that allergies were really the cause of a lot of ailments, even though allergies per se is also a symptom of something else. And that has to do with the gut. Hippocrates said more than 2,500 years ago that everything starts in the gut. And it is still true today more than ever, because what we are eating today is a little scary. And it's, 70% of kids today, they eat a totally processed food. And that affects everything. First of all, that food doesn't have any nutrients, has no bacteria. We need bacteria to digest our food. So they eat too much because it makes them hungry. Since they don't get the nutrients, they want more food. So it is addictive too. And since the 90s, kids have tripled their weight and illnesses. And I think it's over 40% of children now have more childhood diabetes than they had 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, there was no such thing as childhood diabetes if it wasn't type 1. It was old onset diabetes. And this is really, really scary. So, and also because we are one kid out of 2 has the chronic disease, at least one. And there are fewer and fewer kids being born. I think they will have a problem in a few years when the kids becoming 18. there would be too many universities and too many teachers and not enough kids. So who is going to take care of half of them being sick? And also the generation, a big generation who is old or getting old. So we have really a problem on our hands. And we have to start with our children.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
I 100% agree for sure. And Dr. Ynge, can you tell us, because I know we say allergy, but I know you
yeah,
have a bigger view of that. So share with us what that actually means.
okay. So actually, I am very biased because I have a kit that's called the Allergy Kit, but it's not all allergies, and that is true. Allergies is a reaction that you have for something that you shouldn't react to, and it is immediate. Then we have sensitivities, and they are a little more tricky because they can occur up to 72 hours after being in contact with either it's pollen or it's something you eat, but that can take, as I said, up to 72 hours. So it can be very hard to figure out what it is. And that's why I recommend everybody who has problems and they don't know where they come from to make a diary, a food diary, write down how they feel in the morning, if they slept through the night, and what they ate and how they reacted. Because then you can go back and see, okay, I had that last week and I had a reaction, and I had that a week ago before then. That is really the easiest way to figure out what you are allergic or sensitive to. And
Yeah,
then
go ahead.
yeah, and then we have intolerance, which is probably because you had too much of that specific substance. So it's like filling up a barrel. You can fill it up and then all of a sudden it's full. It doesn't take anymore. So there are really 3 different things about allergies.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
But they all kind of react with the mind, with the memory, with the body, of course, with the body. And with kids, for example, a typical American breakfast is often a toast with something sweet on it and a glass of juice, probably store-bought juice. Okay, so the juice, it's mainly water with some additives to preserve it, some additives to make it taste. And sometimes they even store this so-called juice up to a year before they put it in cartons and sell them. The bread, the wheat, which is normally wheat and most of the time white wheat, which goes directly out in the bloodstream. So wheat has a higher glycemic index than sugar. So they have the sugar from the juice because the juice doesn't have any fiber at all. So it also goes directly out in the bloodstream. So you have this double whammy for breakfast. So you have the breakfast, and then I guess it takes half an hour or so before you get to school. So during this time, they have their sugar rush and start to behave a little, hyperactive, and often they get angry too. And then they come to school, and what do? They have a crash. Jonk. What do they want to do? They want to sleep. Can they concentrate on anything? No, they can't focus. And it's not only kids who eat this breakfast. And how often do you hear today that grown-ups say, oh yeah, I'm ADD or I'm ADHD? Well, they eat the wrong things. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an allergy, even though I believe that we all have allergies. That's what I have seen during my allergies or sensitivities. All of us have them. And when we have these sensitivities, we cannot build up the immune system because the body can't absorb the nutrients if they eat food with nutrients. That is. So we have a big problem on our hands with learning. So, for example, some kids, they react for certain, we can take milk. I don't know if you're aware of that milk creates ear infections. An allergy to milk creates ear infections. So what happens? They go to the doctor. They got antibiotics. Sometimes they get these tubes in their ears. And they keep getting ear infections because they did not do anything for the cause, which is take the milk away. So with the allergy kit, you can eliminate the allergy to milk, even though some kids, they also are allergic to, milk has a casein. It breaks down to a morphine-like organism, which makes some people and some kids addicted to it.
That's
But
fascinating. I didn't
yeah,
know that addiction occurred with the milk too. That's really interesting.
yeah, you know about the wheat, right? That there is,
Yes, yes. I
yeah,
do know about that.
but it
Yeah.
has. And with the wheat, even though you eliminate the allergy, I really don't recommend anybody eating wheat because it is, first of all, it has been hybridized for about 80 years. Hybridized, they have changed it so it would grow lower and it wouldn't have so much straw. Like when I grew up, it was you could walk and hide in the those fields. And also, it has changed. So they have one of the proteins breaks down into something called zonulin, maybe too much information. But these things, they make holes in your intestinal lining, which means that food comes out in the bloodstream. So of course, then the body makes antibodies. So sometimes maybe it's not an allergy, maybe it's just antibodies to what they are eating.
That's
But
fascinating.
yeah, so when they eliminate the allergy, at least they won't react if they have it now and then. And also wheat is hidden in so many things. I mean, you can hardly buy anything without having wheat in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the holes in the intestinal lining, that's leaky gut right there, right? So
Yep.
that's what it's called. And that leads to a whole myriad of things. And so thinking about this is so true, you guys. And I love the idea of the food log because for when I first was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I did a food log every day, every meal for 3 years.
Yeah.
And it was really, I mean, it changed a lot because it's really a snapshot, but you can see what things are, sensitive to, what things are, like you just have to think about that and to really keep a food log and you can kind of see over time. You can't just do it for a week. You have to
No,
really
and
do it
see
for
how
long term.
and really see how you feel. I mean, if
Right.
you feel like crap, something is wrong.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and and if you get angry for nothing, something is wrong.
Right, right. And I was just going to ask you about that. So, in terms of thinking about how do we, if our kids, I mean, we don't know that they have an allergy, intolerance, or something, what are some of the symptoms that we should look for to even have a question about that?
Well, one is, as I said, the milk and ear infections, because that is, as I said, once had a girl, a little 3-year-old, she did not thrive. And she had ear infection, got antibiotics. 3 weeks later, she had a staph infection. Same thing, antibiotics. This went on for a year. I treated her for milk, and that was it. She never had an ear infection or strep after that. So that is one sign. I mean, a very obvious sign. Another sign is kids who wake up with respiratory problems at night, or wake up and they are, have respiratory problems. That's an allergy to dust mites.
Interesting. Does that also have anything to do with mouth breathing? Because I know that that's something that people are talking
Well,
about now.
I don't know,
Okay.
but very possibly because they get a little stuffed. So they
Because they're
have.
stuffy. Yeah.
Mhm. And then we have wheat, for example, in some kids, it creates, kids who start to bang. It's more kids on the spectrum, but they bang their heads. It's often from wheat. No eye contact, that's often from wheat. Total meltdowns, often from wheat. And then, of course, we have sugars. And I can just tell you, once I was babysitting my youngest grandkids. I think the youngest was 4 at the time. And we went to the Cold Stone to have ice cream. And that's a long, narrow store. So he got his ice cream, and I think he had 2 spoons. And then he started to run. Up and down. We had to leave.
I love that. That's so great. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you guys, it's so interesting because I remember, so in the, I don't know, about, gosh, it's been a long time. Probably about, it's been over 10 years now that I stopped eating gluten. And I remember I ate it one time after a long period of not eating it in the beginning. And I couldn't, I just remember after about 30 minutes, I was like, what is going on? I don't even know. I had a headache. I had this low grade headache, and I felt just kind of like you're just really lethargic. And I was like, what's happening? And then I said, I ate gluten. That's what happened.
But
It was,
do you react to all gluten, like barley and rice and all these things?
yeah, well, not rice, just the
Other grains?
yeah, the other grains. Yeah.
Because many people, today everything is gluten-free, even orange juice.
Yes.
And most of the time, it's not gluten. Myself, for
Interesting.
example, I realized after going to the same, I couldn't understand why I had hip pain. I couldn't sleep on my hips, on my sides for years. And the chiropractor said, "Oh, you're getting old." And I said, "So why do I have it at times and not at other times?" Because I'm not a wheat eater. I'm not a bread eater.
Yeah.
And so we went to the same restaurant 3 times in the same week because we were very busy. And it's a Salvadorian Italian restaurant. They have this bread that they make that they cut thin, and then they smash it out. So it's very, very thin, toast it, and put chimichurri on it.
Oh,
so good. The 3rd time we went, I was fine when I came in. I could hardly get up from the table. That's when I realized I was allergic to wheat. But not the gluten. For me, it's not the gluten. I can have other grains and I have no reaction.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I love that. And yeah, it's really, so in terms of the kids thinking about their learning, if they're feeling lethargic or they're super hyper and then they crash with the sugar,
yeah,
we're going to have trouble.
We are having trouble. Big trouble. And parents have to do something. They have to change. I'm sorry to say, but we have to change. Sugar has to go and wheat has to go. And of course, if you have it sometimes, but you really have to figure out these things that are the worst for your health, that spikes the blood sugar. Because I believe blood sugar is the beginning of everything. First you get pre-diabetic, then you get diabetic, then the strokes come, heart attacks, cancer, all these things. And Alzheimer's, for example. And also autism, because they are what are they called?
Neurodiversity, yeah.
Yeah. It affects the brain because there is a brain sugar imbalance, which affects the brain. Then it affects everything in the body. For example, now they have found that fertility, PCOS, is from sugar imbalance.
That's
erectile dysfunction from sugar. So
that's fascinating.
Because the infertility has really gone down a lot, but 80% of the population, more than 80% of the population, has some kind of metabolic disease, and that is sugar. It starts with blood sugar. So we really have to do something.
Yeah, and it's really true when our kids are not feeling well, or they don't even know that they're not because it's just normal. And I think a lot of people, and I've been down through my own health journey, and my son's really down. We've been studying for a very long time and learning a lot, and there's so much more to learn, of course. But I know, but The really fascinating part is that there's so many symptoms that people live with that they don't realize
Yeah,
are actually related to their eating, their health, their nutrition. And what real nutrition is a lot different than what's advertised.
absolutely. And I mean, we can just look at weight, that people gain weight 1-2 pounds a year. How much is that in 10 years?
Yeah,
And they don't pay attention to it. And then all of a sudden they want to lose weight, but they don't want to change.
right.
So
Absolutely.
if we could start from from the beginning, eat food, start to eat at home, involve the kids. Make a list what you want to eat, and avoid, of course, the sugars and the wheat. But there is so much you can eat apart from that.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
have the kids contribute to what okay, this is good and this is not good, or oh, okay, I never tried that, I will try that. Get what I find personally is an air fryer is the best investment I ever did, because it's not expensive.
Yeah.
And I make a full dinner or a full lunch in between 20 and 30 minutes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And then I also love the Instant Pot.
Yes, yes,
Pressure
that too.
cooker.
It helps a lot.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah, and if you involve the kids, I mean, that's something where you're learning together, and that's something that my son and I have done. So, he'll look at something, my husband bought or something, he'll say, "Oh my gosh, I'm not eating that. Do you know how much sugar this has?" And, he'll do that, but then of course he'll ask for
but
some.
they learn fast. They
Yeah.
learn fast. And also, if you can point out how they feel afterwards.
Yes.
And also, one thing that I learned, there is a woman, I forgot her name, who has written a book about eating your veggies first. And I don't know if that, I suppose that includes the salad. Here in America, you eat most of the time you get the salad first. In France, you eat it last. I'm used to eat it together. But they say if you eat the veggies salad first, you have the fiber, so it will take care of the sugar digestion, so you won't have that spike.
I
For
love
example,
that.
the other day I had quinoa and
Mhm.
fish and something. My blood spiked to 255, which is pretty high.
Wow, yeah, that is high.
But I forgot that you're supposed to, if you cook it in the instant pot, for example, in high pressure, it doesn't do that as much. So I have to try that and measure again. You have to try. I mean, the easiest way, of course, you won't maybe do that on the kids, but at least on yourself, try with the glucose meter and see which sugars and which foods spike the blood sugar. Because
Absolutely.
quinoa is a good food. It has a lot of protein, but if it raises the blood sugar that way, it's not good.
Yeah, it's fascinating, keeping track of that blood sugar too. I know I did that for a while as well. And then how you feel, like just that, and then asking the kids, just having that conversation is really important so that they can learn the words to identify the things that they're feeling.
Yeah.
So they don't know that all the time. My son, he used to talk, he has a dairy allergy, and he used to talk about like, oh, it tastes bad. And I'm like, well, does
Yeah.
it taste bad, or are you like, like what's,
Oh,
you have any reaction, or what's the
yeah.
difference? And he
That
didn't know.
that is probably a reaction, most
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, he was having a reaction, but just wasn't. He didn't know the words to say, that
Yeah.
it bad, and maybe it did taste bad. maybe that wasn't an appropriate, response. But he knows better now to be able to have the language, right, to be able to do that. But it was hard when he was little. And you guys, when they are really young and they don't know how to say things, you could just have to look for frustration and complaining or laying around and things like that, because
Yeah.
anything that, right, because I mean, they don't know how to explain it, right?
Yeah. And then there are kids who say they will absolutely not eat something, or for example, with milk. I know lots of kids, they do not want milk. And I think that their bodies know that they have an allergy to it.
Mm.
So, because I know many people, they were forced to drink milk. No, this is good. You need the calcium and blah blah. And then they felt like, what, afterwards they didn't like it. They didn't feel good.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really that is a good point for them listening to their bodies. They actually are listening. It just it comes out in a way that's just like
And of
maybe
course, they should taste everything.
right.
At least taste.
Right.
I know my daughter, she would not taste mushrooms. No, it was not mushroom. It was béarnaise sauce that I would have. I made my own béarnaise sauce, that would have with meat. And she refused to taste it. Once she did, well, I had to make a double batch.
My son was the same way. He would refuse to eat anything new, but then I would shove it in, and when he was screaming or something, and then he'd go,
That was good.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of good. Yeah, stop fighting me.
Yeah. So there is definitely a power game between kids and parents. It is. So, and it's sometimes hard to know which is correct and which is not.
Absolutely. Yeah. My son, was like, it took him, I think, 4 hours to eat two slices of apples or something, because I was not dying. I was going to die on that hill. And I said, if I'd have let you go, you wouldn't eat apples today.
Yep.
He was like, thanks, Mom. Thanks for that. But I love it. So, Dr. Ynge, this is awesome information, and I know it affects love of learning. It really does, because if your kids don't feel good, every time you take out the have to stuff, and by the way, you guys know how I feel about the have to kind of thing, but if you take out stuff that, they just are having to work their brain, and they have brain fog, or they're not super, they can't focus really well because they're not feeling good, they have a headache or something. That's something that can really associate them with learning and then not feeling well, and then we create this vicious cycle. So it's really important for us to take into consideration their health journey in relation to learning, right? So we can raise love of learning by getting their energy up and getting excited again, right? So Dr. Ynge, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much. How do we get in touch with you? Because I know you talked about your allergy kit, and you guys, the allergy, can you just tell us a little bit about it? Because I think it's fabulous.
Okay, the allergy kit is, I don't know if I have any here. I just packed because I'm going away. But they come in homeopathized vials like this, and people say, how do you do that? How do you imprint that? Well, it's just like you go to what is that called, where you download music? Spotify.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, I want that music, and you click on the button and it downloads to your phone. Same thing. It's frequencies. You download frequencies, and it is not really a test, even though you can test with it if you muscle test. And if you don't know, you just do the whole kit. You use a laser, so it's totally non-invasive, no needles. You don't put anything on your skin, you don't ingest it, you don't inject it, and you can use it for the whole family. And you can repeat it. If it's something that doesn't stick, like sugar, you probably have to do a few times.
Right.
And
by the way, if you guys don't know about muscle testing, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, maybe we should have a thing about that.
That'd be amazing. Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to get trained. I always go to people who don't.
I so wish that parents would learn muscle testing. Even the kids, it's so easy to do, but grown-ups have that hang up. They don't trust themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
really fascinating, you guys. It'll change your world. Seriously, it's so fun. It's so amazing. So how do we get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to the allergykit.com. There is a little, you can make an appointment. There is a free appointment for 15 minutes. You have a link also where they can, if they want to know more, where they can make an appointment, for a little longer appointment on Zoom. So there are ways to get in touch with me. And as I said, if nothing else, they lose your link, go to theallergykit.com and make an appointment through there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you gave us a freebie as well, something that we can just download and will help us learn about these allergy problems. So what is that about?
Well, that is about allergies that people really don't connect. They don't think about having an allergy for certain things. It seems foreign. Like, for example, me having pain in my hips. So it can be aches and pains, it can be headaches, it can be eczema, it can be depression and anger. So many things that we can. It sounds funny to have an allergy to depression, but
Hey, man, that's something we all want to be.
it's
We
a
all want to be rid of.
it's a frequency. So
Absolutely. Dr. Ynge, this has been so fun. Thank you so much, you guys. I really hope that in the reason why I bring in these experts that talk about health is that it's so important to talk about this in terms of learning, because it affects everything. If our health is messed up and we can't function correctly cognitively in our relationships, and we can't move forward with really gaining that great beautiful education that we want our kids to get, and also create the people that we're trying to create as far as our long-term goals. You guys know I talk about that a lot. So I want you to make sure they just keep this in mind, and most of you are, because you're amazing mamas and papas, and I love that. And so I want you to reach out to Dr. Ynge and just find out, because you could be surprised. I think you will. She's amazing. Thank you, Dr. Ynge, so much. And I appreciate you. I'm sure we'll have you on again.
thank you.
Bye-bye, you guys.